This is the DoughRoller Money Podcast, episode number 185. My name is Rob Berger. I'm the founder of DoughRoller.net and the host of this podcast. Today, we're going to talk about productivity and specifically how to apply Getting Things Done, a productivity system by David Allen, how to apply Getting Things Done to our finances.
Welcome to the DoughRoller Podcast, where the best thing money can buy is financial freedom. We help you make more, spend less, and invest the rest. And now your host, Rob Berger.
Whether you're just starting out, buried under a mountain of debt, or well on your way to financial freedom, this is the podcast to help you take your finances to the next level. Hey everybody, hope you're having a great day. Well, today we're going to talk about productivity. This has been on my mind a lot lately. Over the past couple of months, my life has gotten very, very busy for a lot of different reasons. My law practice has gotten pretty busy. Things at home, just different projects going on, have gotten very busy. Trying to keep up with this podcast and the blog and writing for Forbes and other sites. It's been overwhelming. And I've been really focused on productivity as a result and how to make the most of my time, how to stay organized. If you're like me, there's sort of constantly things bouncing around my brain. Am I forgetting this? When is this due? Have I completely missed something? Or have I blown any deadlines? Kind of drives me crazy after a while. And then in turn, it drives everyone around me crazy. So I recently started rereading a new edition of Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. This is a book by David Allen. I'm sure many of you have heard of it and have read it. I guess it was the first edition several years ago. He came out with a new edition for 2015 with some new material. I thought, well, it's a good time for a refresher course. And so I'm actually halfway through the book, although I'm very familiar with his system, which we're going to talk about today. And I've been implementing his system more, I guess, intentionally than I had in the past, and trying to figure out the best way for me to implement his productivity system, basically so I just don't drive myself and everyone I know completely insane. That's been the basic goal. And so what I thought I would do today is, for those who are not familiar with his system, share the basics of his system. It's very simple. And then kind of walk through how I implement his system and the tools that I use, and then give you some ideas on how to implement his system specifically for your finances. I mean, his system is designed, to enhance productivity for anything. It could be work, it could be home, any part of your life. And one thing I should say before we sort of dive into the details is that the goal for me, and I think this is true when you read his book, the goal isn't to be able to squeeze every ounce of productivity out of your life, but rather to allow you to focus on your work, whatever it is, and however much of your time you spend on it, without having to worry about the 1,000 Post-it notes, if you will, in your mind. Did you get all the groceries you needed to at the store? Oh, I forgot I needed to go to the post office. Oh, there's a project due at work. All of these things, getting the kids to soccer practice. I mean, it can be any part of your life. The goal isn't to go 24/7, but rather that when you do go, it's stress-free. You know that you're not missing anything. You've got a system in place to capture all of the things that would otherwise be gnawing at you. Get it out of your head into a system that you can use to know, what you need to do when you need to do it. That's the goal, and it's been very helpful for me over the past couple of months, and so I thought I'd share it with you. So let's first just talk about the system itself. It's a 5-step system. It's really simple, and then we'll sort of get into the details of how I apply it, what I find helpful about it, and then circle back and kind of apply it to our finances. So it's a 5-step process, and the first one is capturing. You basically want to capture everything that gets your attention. Everything that's sort of out there, not in the right place. And this is physical stuff. You could have, a filing cabinet with a bunch of stuff thrown in it, and you need to organize it. It could be a closet that needs to be organized. It could be papers on your desk or in a desk drawer. Whatever needs to be processed, we want to capture that all in one place. And in my experience, that takes a couple of different forms. The first one is the physical stuff. Right? We'll talk about that in terms of finances, but you can think about that. You may have a stack of bills on the counter that's you need to get to, and it's been kind of gnawing at you, and there it is. Well, you're going to want to take that. You're going to put all this stuff in one place, but physical stuff. Now, sometimes that's not practical, right? So maybe one of the things that's really been bothering you that you want to get to is organizing the garage. Well, you're probably not going to take everything that's in the garage and bring it into your living room. So for that kind of stuff, just a single piece of paper, organized garage, write it right on this 8.5 by 11 sheet. I like to do one sheet per item. So you've got all the physical stuff you're going to collect. You've got your sheets for things where, it's just not practical to collect it. And then the third thing in my mind for most people, email. Email is a big issue. I'm actually pretty much to inbox zero, more or less, almost. I kind of view that as a third high-level bucket. But the first step, whatever it means for you, is to capture everything. Like I'm looking around my desk and I see a bunch of photos sitting on a shelf that I had scanned, actually. So I have them in my photo system on the Mac. But I've meant to send them to mail the actual physical photos to a cousin. Well, that's just something I need to do. That would be a perfect example. That would go in the inbox as something that I need to take care of. Now, this capturing, don't underestimate it, particularly if if you're not particularly organized, like I'm not, and you haven't done this in a while. The capturing process can literally take days, potentially, but it's certainly going to take hours. You could have a junk drawer with who knows what in there that you just kind of throw stuff in, and that needs to come out if it's going to be part of what you want to organize. So capturing is a big deal. Do not underestimate it. So that's the first step. The second step he calls clarifying, and that's basically where you take all of this stuff you've captured, again, whether it's physical stuff, notes on individual 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper, your email inbox, and you need to kind of process it. And the way he does this, the first thing he says is it actionable? Is this something I need to go do something with? And if it is, can I do it in 2 minutes? If I can do it in 2 minutes or less, I'm just going to do it. If I can't, then I'll delegate it if I can, or if I'm not going to delegate it, I need to do it. It's going to take me longer than 2 minutes. Then we're going to put it on a list. We'll get to that, but we're going to put it on a list that says, okay, got it. This is something I need to do. Now, in some cases, you'll find stuff that's not actionable. You pull all this stuff out of your file cabinet and you see a manual for your VCR. Listen to me, VCR. Who has a VCR anymore? A manual for your lawnmower. All right, there we go. I think some people still have lawnmowers. You're not going to, there's no action item here. You just need to file it, right? So some of the stuff is going to be reference material. And so you're going to want a filing system that captures, in this case, manuals, and you're going to want to process that. Some of the stuff you might throw away. Some of the stuff you go through it. I just don't even need this. It goes in the trash. But after you've captured everything, you need to clarify it, and that's the system that he's designed, and to go through all of this stuff. And you can imagine if it takes you a couple of days to get to collect everything, it's definitely going to take you some time to clarify, to go through and decide what's actionable, what's not. If you can do it under 2 minutes, do it. If you can delegate it, delegate it. If it's going to take longer, put it on an appropriate list so that you can deal with it at the appropriate time. And that list kind of gets us to step 3, which is to organize. And I'm going to walk through how I organize my stuff in a minute and the tools that I use. But the idea here is you want to have things on the appropriate list. So for me, for example, I might have a list of projects. And some might be work-related, some might be at home, whatever. And if an item is related to one of those projects, it's going to go on a project list. Sometimes it's not part of a project. It's just a kind of a list of errands that I need. I need to go to the dry cleaner, and I need to go to the bank or whatever. So it may not be part of a project. It may just be some one-off things that I need to do. But you need to organize all this stuff so that it's very easy for you to see all of these things that you need to do. And I'll talk about how I do that. And then steps 4 and 5, I kind of lump together, although I guess they're a little different. But 4 is reflect and 5 is engage. Once you have this system set up, you've captured everything, you've clarified it, you've organized it into the right lists, then you need to be going back to those lists regularly. I look at mine daily because the idea here is you've gotten everything out of your mind, so it's not gnawing at you, onto these lists, but it doesn't do you any good if you then stick the lists in a drawer. It's going to start bugging you again. So you really need to be reviewing these lists and then engaging with them on a daily basis. I have found this very helpful. And I think there are kind of three, for me, he's got a 5-step process, but there's sort of 3 things that I have found out of this process for me to be the most helpful. The first is on this capturing thing. You capture all your stuff. It's easy to kind of, for me anyway, it's easy to go through the house and find stuff in the house that I need to process. I'm looking over at my shelf again, and above the pictures, I see some envelopes, and I know what they are, but yeah, there's another thing I need to process. The thing that I find most useful is the stuff where there's no physical, it's not a stack of papers, it's just stuff on my mind that I know I need to do or want to do. And I kind of call getting that stuff out of my mind and into a system the snap your finger test. If I could just, snap my finger and have something done, what would I do? Well, I might snap my fingers and have that will written that, we have one, but maybe you don't. As an example, though, it's been gnawing at you. You need this will written, and you need a will, and it just hasn't happened. If you could just snap your fingers and have it done, you would. The same thing could be applied to cleaning out your gutters, or rebalancing your investment portfolio, or changing banks because you hate your bank and you can get a better rate somewhere, but it's kind of a pain. And you've got all those automatic, you'd have to change your direct deposit, and you have all these automatic payments that come out of your account every month. That's just a hassle. But man, if you could just snap your fingers and have that done, you'd feel, really good about it. So I use that, how I describe it, that snap your finger test, to get everything out of my mind that's sort of there, of things that I've wanted to do and just haven't, into this system. I found that very helpful as a way to kind of stop all of the thoughts and things that are bouncing around in my head, get them down on a list. I found that to be very, very helpful. The second thing about his system that I really like is the 2-minute drill. When I go through and I look at stuff, you got to kind of be in the mode. I was doing that this morning, and my wife had a letter from her employer. She's just kind of, I don't know if retired is the right word, but she's left her job and going to just hang at home for a while. And she got a letter in the mail about her retirement account. Does she want to keep it there or roll it over? And then there's information in that letter about, how she can make that decision and who to contact. Well, that's a perfect example. What do you do with that? It's important. We're not going to roll it over to an IRA at the moment. But what do I do with that piece of paper? Well, that's the 2-minute drill kicked in. I can take care of that in 2 minutes. And I came down, I scanned it. I'll talk about this in a minute in some detail. Scanned it into Evernote. I've got it. Boom. Then I throw the piece of paper away. It took me less than 2 minutes. And I find that 2-minute drill to be very, very sort of motivating. It's kind of a nice, clean, pretty obvious whether something can be done in 2 minutes or less. You could use a 4-minute drill, 5-minute drill, whatever. But I like that approach. It helps me really sort of power through a lot of stuff in short order. So that's the second thing that I really like about his system. The third thing, and something I haven't mentioned yet, but it's really part of the clarifying step, is the power of the next step. It's so easy to get overwhelmed. You think about a will, it's expensive. I don't know much about it. What do I do? Well, it can become overwhelming. But one of the things he preaches is you really need, for all of your action items, particularly those that are part of a project that, not as simple as simply running to the bank, like having a will written, is you need to write down your next step. What's the next thing you're going to do to move this thing forward? In the case of a will, it might be researching lawyers on the internet. It may be that you have a friend named Susie had her will done 3 months ago and was very happy with the lawyer. And so maybe your next step is calling her to get the name and number of the attorney that she used. But whatever the next step is, write it down. And it really helps take the sting out of these big projects that they can be overwhelming, and so we just don't do them. The reality is, no matter how big the project is and how much we don't want to do it, if you break it down into little steps, it becomes much easier. You don't need to write all the steps down. You just need to write the next step down. So those 3 things, the snap your finger test, the 2-minute drill, and the power of the next step, are I think the most useful and powerful things that I've taken away from David Allen's system, and I've just found them very useful, very motivating. Helps with productivity. It's helped me quite a lot. So now, with all of that in sort of background, let me kind of walk through my system. I'm going to give you some resources, some tools that you can use, and some of these apply regardless of what part of your life you're trying to organize. Some of them are specific to finances. But probably the two most important tools that I use are Evernote and a paper scanner. I've gone back and forth. I've used OmniFocus, which is a Mac tool, which I like a lot. I used that for a while. I've even used Scrivener, which is a wonderful, calling it a word processor is probably an insult. It's a kind of tool that you might use to write a novel or a manuscript or a thesis. Really powerful tool. I've actually used that to organize things, particularly, for example, writing that I do, say, for DoughRoller. But what I found is that neither OmniFocus nor Scrivener are a complete tool. If I'm going to use either of those, I still need to use Evernote. Evernote is just the place to organize everything. And what I've come to believe now is that I can actually, for the most part, ditch Scrivener and OmniFocus and just rely on Evernote. And that way I've only got one tool to use, both for writing. I can write outlines or a complete article for DoughRoller, or an outline. I'm in Evernote now with an outline for this podcast. And it's very easy. I can then save it in Evernote, can tag it, put it in the right notebook in Evernote. And so I've really come to rely heavily on Evernote. And in the paper scanner, again, there's a perfect example, is that letter my wife got from her retirement account. I could keep a large paper filing system, but why do that? I have a ScanSnap, which is a great scanner. Scans pictures, double-sided, paper, everything. Scan the letter right in. I can literally push a button that scans it as a PDF right into Evernote. As a note, I can name it, give it an appropriate name, tag it, put it in the right notebook, and I'm done. I can throw the piece of paper away. So those two are by far, I think, the most important tools that I use for getting things done in that productivity system. As it relates to finances, there are some other tools, though. You're going to want a budgeting tool and an investment tracking tool. You could use Personal Capital for both, which I've mentioned before. If you want a tool that's really focused just on budgeting, I think YNAB, You Need a Budget, is the best. You need some kind of filing system. Now, again, I use Evernote for my virtual filing system, and then we have one filing cabinet at home for things that just, for whatever reason, Evernote just isn't the best. So we do have some paper. You could use Dropbox, and we have Dropbox account. Although, again, there's really almost nothing that Evernote can't do in terms of saving stuff. So, again, I'm trying to reduce the number of tools that I use. So I'm kind of shifting most of my stuff from Dropbox to Evernote. And there can be some other things depending on your finances. I use Award Wallet to track all of the rewards programs, mainly hotel and airline rewards. So I use Award Wallet. It's free and very, 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 very useful. So there could be other systems that you use, like that. But again, Evernote, paper scanner, the most important. Some kind of budgeting tool and an investment tracking tool, I think, are important as well. Now, before I go into some specifics on applying this to your finances, one resource that I want to mention that's really important with respect to Evernote is called The Secret Weapon. And I kid you not, that's the name of it. So if you go to thesecretweapon.org, it is a free resource with a bunch of videos that show you how to use Evernote and your email to implement getting things done. And it's a lot of detail. I'm not going to go into all of it now, but I'll go into it at a high level for you. The system basically uses just a couple of notebooks within Evernote, and then a tagging system. So I most people are probably familiar with Evernote, but if you're not, you can create notebooks to put notes in. It can be an email that you forward to the Evernote system. It can be something you scan, or it could be just something you type in. And you can put them in notebooks. The secret weapon system doesn't have very many. You basically have a cabinet for reference material. I use an inbox, which is where everything goes first, so that before I decide exactly where I want it. And then tasks. You have actions pending, things you need to do, and then completed. So it's just a couple of notebooks. But then the tagging system, I think, is where the real power comes in. Because I have tags for what, when, where, and who. And basically every item that I need to deal with gets multiple tags. So as an example, having some work done on the house, having the front porch repaired. And so I'm dealing with the contractor. And so I have it under the what is home, as it relates to home. But I also have a when. In some cases, I'm waiting on him to say, get me an estimate. So I have one of the when tags is waiting. I have daily, which is things I want to do daily. I have a today tag, this week tag, next week, this month, and someday. By the way, that's a little different than the secret weapon system, but that's what I find useful for me. And so you can imagine at any one time, I might be waiting on a client to get me something. I might be waiting on this contractor to get me something. You might be waiting on any number of things in both your personal and professional life. Well, what I can do is click the waiting tag, and it shows me all of the items that I'm waiting for somebody, for something. Doesn't matter whether it's professional, personal, whatever. And then it allows me to quickly decide, okay, do I need to follow up with any of these folks or not? Same thing with today. If I'll start either the night before or first thing in the morning and look at my this week, next week, this month tags and say, okay, what is it I want to get done today? And you can very quickly tag it today. And there's my to-do list for today. At work, I have under the what tag, I have tags for each of my cases. And so I can simply click on those tags and see everything that I need to do, or that I'm waiting for someone, or that's due today or next week for that case. So it's a very easy system to implement. I know it's a little hard to describe in a podcast. If you watch the videos on thesecretweapon.org, it'll be very clear. I think there's a whole bunch of videos. I watched maybe 3 or 4 of them and implemented this system in less than an hour. It was very, very simple. It's not the only way to do it. You could use pen and paper. You could use OmniFocus. I've used OmniFocus with getting things done, and it's a very easy and nice system to use. But having used that and others, I keep coming back to Evernote. Evernote is, I think, the only tool where you could just use it and pretty much nothing else. And so I find it extremely useful. So having set up the system, I apply it to everything. How might you apply it to your finances? And how might you apply David Allen's getting things done to your finances? Well, at one level, it's no different than applying it to anything. You start with the capture, and you want to, first of all, collect all of the financial stuff in your house that's not in the right place or that has an action item associated with it. It might be a bunch of tax stuff you've just shoved in a drawer in a file somewhere. It could be a stack of bills sitting on the counter that you'd just rather not look at, and I get that, but they got to be dealt with. Or a bunch of receipts. Maybe you've got business receipts that you've stuffed in your wallet, and they need to be dealt with. Or you've got a filing cabinet, but it's not organized at all, and you've got a bunch of paper in there that needs to be dealt with. Bills and bank statements, investment account statements, taxes, information on all your debt. Things like car fees and registrations, that always nags at me. When's this due? When's the license plate going to expire? We have to get inspections, safety inspections every year. And there's a sticker on the car. And it's always like the end of the month when it's due, when I first realize, oh, that's right, I've got 2 days to get the car inspected. All this stuff that we kind of lose track of. Wills, maybe you have one that needs to be updated, or maybe you don't have one and you're going to write on a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, get a will. All of these sorts of stuff, coupons, rewards, miles. Maybe there's books that you want to read and they've been on your mind and you had a list somewhere and you've lost it. So all of that stuff, whether it's physical paper or things just on your mind that you're going to write down one each on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Collect all of that stuff in one place. And one of the things that I do, one approach to getting things done is to collect in your quote unquote inbox everything, personal, professional, everything, all into one place and deal with it all at once. I tend to do it based on either location or subject matter, rather than trying to capture everything in my life at one time, which would just probably be impossible. So finances is a great one to try to capture all of the financial stuff at one time. And again, I've given you a long list of things that might fit into this. It could be different for you, but the end result of this capture step is going to be probably a bunch of paper on the kitchen table or living room table or somewhere, files, receipts, all the stuff you've physically collected, and then a whole list of 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper with one item on each of things that largely things you need to do. Things that you don't have a piece of paper that represents the item, like, for example, if you need to get a will, but you need to do it. It's been in your mind. It's been on your mind. Get it written down on a piece of paper. And then you start the clarifying, the 2-minute drill, and the next step. You're going to literally go through each piece of paper. What needs to be done? Is there an action? The first question is there an action associated with this piece of paper? Is there something that I need to do? If the answer is yes, and you can do it in under 2 minutes, you do it. And if you can't do it under 2 minutes, or you're doing this at 2 a.m. in the morning, and one of the things is to call a friend for a recommendation for an attorney, you're probably not going to call them at 2 in the morning. Fine. Then you need to write down the next step. Now, at this point, I tend to do this with Evernote in front of me. I think it's good to write out on pieces of paper during the capture process. But as I'm clarifying, and I tend to clarify and organize at the same time, I want to get it into the final system that I'm going to use. Now, again, you may keep it paper-based, but in my case, I want to put it all in Evernote. So for each piece of paper is going to represent a separate note inside of Evernote. In this case, the what tag for me is going to be finances. Now, you could break that down further. You could break it down: finances, trusts and estates, taxes. I tend not to. I try to keep my tags in notebooks to a minimum. So for me, everything in this bucket would go in just a finance tag. And then I'd tag it for when I want to do it, depending on how important and critical it is for me. It may be something I want to do today or this week or next week or this month. Some of it might be someday. It just depends on how important it is. But when I create that note, I always include the next step in the body of the note, whatever that next step is. So very important to help you get through and power through this stuff. A lot of what you're going to find doesn't have an action item associated with it. It's probably a lot of organization. Some stuff you'll throw away. For the paper, I try to scan everything now, just about everything. We do have some paper, but I'm going to keep a paper copy of my original signed will, for example, right? I'm not going to scan it and then tear it up. Although I might scan it, I might keep a scanned copy. But there's certainly going to be some place for paper. But a lot of the clarifying and organizing, when I come across reference material that I want to keep, if I can, I scan it into Evernote, into the cabinet. It's just a notebook that I've created called Cabinet, and I can tag it with whatever it is. I can create subfolders within Cabinet if I want to, and I do for finances because it's an important topic. But that helps reduce the paper clutter and gets everything pretty well organized inside of Evernote. Now, this clarifying and organizing, it takes a long time. Again, depends on where you are, how much stuff you have. It could be for debt, particularly if you haven't looked at your debt in a while, you're making payments, but some people don't, I talk to people, they don't know their balances, they don't know their interest rate, they don't have a plan of attack. That might be one of your things that you want to do. You want to come up with a debt repayment plan, and maybe you don't know where to start, but that's going to be an item you're going to put on there. And what's your next step? I suppose it could be emailing me, dr@DoughRoller.net. Unbury Me is a great calculator to help you figure out the best way to pay off your debt. That's actually where I send a lot of people. That might be it. Maybe the next step is simply listing out all your debt and the interest rates and the minimum payments. Maybe that's your first step. Part of that might be reading a book. Maybe you want to read Dave Ramsey's book, who I think is very good with issues related to credit and debt and money management. But you're going to go through all of these things and process them, clarify them. You're going to use the 2-minute drill plus the next step, 2 powerful, I think, productivity features of David Allen's system, and you're going to power through all of this financial stuff, and you will feel better. At least I do when I know that I'm well organized, where things are where they need to be. I just feel better. And it's true whether it's about finances or anything else. And then you're going to start reflecting and going back over all of these lists. You're going to have a lot of things to do. If you haven't spent a lot of time focused on your investments, you're going to have a lot of things that you're going to need to do. You do the 2-minute drill, you get a lot of it out of the way there. But there's going to be a lot of next steps that simply can't be done in 2 minutes. Most people probably can't rebalance their investments in under 2 minutes. That might be on your list. Maybe you want to roll over a 401k to an IRA. That might be on your list. Maybe you don't like your bank and you want to switch. That could be on your list with the next step. And so you're going to have all of these projects, if you will, these bigger items that can't get done quickly, and you're just going to have to prioritize which ones are the most important to you. There's obviously no right answer to that, and start working through the next steps. So I think getting things done is an excellent productivity tool. I'm still learning. It's kind of a bit of a process. I tend to still hang on to things in my head, and then I'll realize, oh, wait a minute, I need to put this in Evernote. And I always feel better when I do. I think it is an excellent way to get your finances organized. And maybe if you've never used getting things done, maybe you want to start with your finances, decide if you like it, the system, and if you do, apply it to other areas of your life. But I think this can really help you kind of get all that financial stuff that we all deal with in order. One of the things I didn't even mention is, part of what might be on your list is to simply go through all your monthly bills. I call it a monthly bill audit, and audit all of your bills. Do I really need Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu Plus? Or can I maybe just live with one of them? Can I get my trash service for less money? Can I consolidate internet and phone and other things and save some money? Can I refinance my credit card debt to 0%? Or does it make sense to refinance my home equity line of credit? I mean, all of those sorts of things could be on your list as well. And that's where some of the budgeting software, I think, comes in handy too. I mean, maybe you're not budgeting. Maybe that's on your list. And you want to start budgeting. That's where things like YNAB or Personal Capital, I think, can come in can end up being very, very helpful. So there you go. I hope this is helpful. If you're not familiar with getting things done, I highly recommend the book. Check it out at your library, buy it from Amazon, whatever. I've got a paperback copy that I bought from Amazon and have been enjoying it. And it's just been, for me, a good refresher course. And then I found, using Evernote to be very helpful. thesecretweapon.org, a very good website. I like the system. No system is perfect. That one's not either. Evernote is not perfect. There are things about OmniFocus that I actually like better than Evernote for getting things done. However, at the end of the day, Evernote really is, I think, the best single solution for this sort of thing, and it's quite good. So. If you've used this before, if you've used getting things done, maybe you have other tools that you like, or maybe you've used Evernote, but you have a different system. Love to hear about it. Let me know. Shoot me an email, dr@DoughRoller.net. But I hope you found this helpful. Hopefully it'll help you get your financial life in order if it's not already. And, there you go. Hey, hope you have a great day. Remember, the best thing money can buy is financial freedom.